Hi, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for your comments to do with anyone who got the Dinky Lamps, because some of you have got them, and it's brilliant that they've already arrived. And we put a lot of them on a lorry yesterday, so that's really great. And send us some photos. It'd be lovely to see. Like, if you put them into the comments here on this post, we'd really love to see them in your space. If you've decided where they're going, just let us see them so we can see where they've landed, really. So today I wanted to carry on a little bit from yesterday, which is to talk about my educational journey. I did say that I did a degree course I started off doing fashion because it was the 80s. No, it wasn't. It was 1990s when I started my degree. But the 80s obviously was very fashion oriented, so that's what happened. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit before that and tell you about my school experience. And in secondary school, I sort of obviously really enjoyed art, but my view of art, I think, was quite limited, because when my art teacher said, "Oh, why don't you apply for this National Diploma to do art instead of A levels?" I thought, I don't know that I can do art full time for 2 years, because I just thought I might get a bit bored. So I filled in the form anyway. I'm so glad that guy told me to fill in this form, because I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to fill it in myself. And I got an interview and I ended up on the National Diploma, and I absolutely excelled over 2 years. I was literally so excited to be on that course, like really, really loved it, because we did life drawings, ceramics, textiles, fashion, collage work, just computer studies, it was just so all-rounded, photography, and I just loved being able to explore all those different disciplines. And it was clear that I was very textile orientated, and just really loved it. So then I went on and did my degree in Liverpool, and was doing the fashion. Now, actually, the other thing I was going to say about secondary school is that I did 2 watercolours that was my first paintings, and my teacher bought one of them. She wanted to buy both of them, but I just thought, no, I want to keep one of them, but I let her buy one of them. And it was quite uncomfortable. I just thought, why on earth do you want this? Because really, even when I got to art college, I would do my work and I would really put lots of effort into it, but I just didn't. I sometimes, when even like in a tutorial, I'd have it all on the floor, and I walked over my work once, and my tutor just told me off and said, "Why did you just walk over your work?" And I said, well, why wouldn't I? Why not? And he says, well, you have to have respect for your work. And it really struck me that even though I really loved what I was doing, I didn't really have very much confidence really in what I was producing, but I just knew that I really loved it. And so it's really, even though I had these views about myself, really, I just kept pushing forward. And so my degree, I realized, like, in the start of my second year in my fashion degree, I just thought, I don't really want to be a fashion designer. So I tried to get into the print part of the course that I was in, so like printmaking, not printmaking actually, printed textiles, but they wouldn't let me in there because it was oversubscribed. And I even tried to get into fine art, and they wouldn't let me in either. So the only other option I had was to do constructed textiles. They were happy to take me on, because I had 2 years to do my degree. So that was like doing knitting and weaving, and I realised very soon that I was neither a knitter or a weaver. So, but obviously I just thought, I'm halfway through my degree. But even then, even when I was in my degree, I did actually take a year out, because I just wasn't really cut out for education, to be honest. I really struggled with it, and I struggled with the discipline of it and the whole setup. And but when I went back, I just got on with like doing constructed textiles. But fortunately, I was able to, in a way, teach myself what I wanted to do. And I started working with this transfer press and using a needle punch machine that I would go and use in Huddersfield University. And I started coming up with fabrics that were like almost like heat fused together and printed on and dyed fabrics, and just came up with big panels that I absolutely loved like coming up with. And it was really exciting, but it was very highly experimental. And I sort of look back on that time and I am so grateful that I had that time, because I just was so involved in wanting to do what I wanted to do in art college, even if it didn't look that great, I just, because it did look like a lot of mess, really, it wasn't that coherent, but I sort of knew in my mind's eye what I wanted to achieve. And I finally achieved what I wanted, like about 6 months before the end of my degree. And then I was able to just produce the work that I was happy with. And it was a lot to do with that I was coming up with a new ways of working, which weren't prescribed. And so it was a really exciting time for me. And I knew that I had done some really good work. And so that was my degree. And then I also did a master's, and I did my master's in textiles in London. And that was not really as much my sort of, again, was something I struggled with. And I did a year of that, and then I had a year's break from it and went back to it. It was very conceptually based, and I'm much more hands-on the way I operate, but I had to learn to articulate my art and my processes, and that was a really good discipline for me, and that helped me a lot with like writing funding proposals when I would do community projects. So it had, although I really struggled with doing that master's, it actually, I made the most of it, I suppose. I was resourceful with it. So it's just, so despite like a very rocky road in lots of ways and not really being understood with the work that I do, I just always had that persistence. And that is what is so important as an artist. I always had that persistence, and I obviously had quite a break because I didn't go in and do a business in my 20s, or in my 30s. In my 30s, I did art projects in schools, and that's what was really, really just brilliantly creative for me. But it wasn't until I was just turning 40 that I picked up my design business, which was 13 and a half years ago. So, because I didn't really have the confidence to do it before that. And it was only my husband that challenged me to sort of like start this business. And then what's been really an amazing crescendo for me is all of like the parts that the educational system has played for me has come together in this business. And all the work that I did in my degree, which I thought I really enjoyed it, but I couldn't earn any money from it after my degree, and I felt really lost for a number of years because it wasn't commercial. It's like all of those processes that I explored, I have really, really all of that has made me do the work that I do today in my business, and I am completely convinced of that. If I had been more commercially minded in my degree, I would not have explored the level of the depths of creativity that I was exploring in my degree. And it's really important to do that. I think for any artist, you really have to have that sort of you know, learn to operate like that. And that's why I look back on my art college days, and though it wasn't easy, I am so unbelievably grateful for it, because if I hadn't have had those experiences, I would not be doing the business that I'm doing now. I literally picked up so much of what I did in my degree and brought it into my business. And I was operating in schools as well with that. So this is very, very wordy, what I've just told you. And I've probably missed out quite a few key things that I had wanted to mention. But I'm just going to, you know, leave it there. But my question to you is the education that you had, how, you know, how did that affect, you know, did you actually do the career that you maybe studied like previously, like I started in fashion, but I'm definitely a printer, even though I couldn't do my degree in printing. That is ultimately, I am totally a printer. And so, you know, what's been your journey in that respect? You know, because again, I love, if I was sitting having a chat with you all in a, you know, in my living room now, these would be the questions I'd be really wanting, and you know, you to tell, you know, give me answers to and tell me your stories. So please, like, give me some nuggets of, like, you know, how your education has formed the career that you now do, and you know, and I just think it's important to really, you know, reflect on that. And obviously, I've already said to you, I'm doing lots of reflecting at the minute, and so this is part of the reason why I'm talking this openly about what's brought me to this point. You know, what's brought me to this point of doing the work that I do. So yeah, so have another lovely evening, and thanks again for listening. And remember as well to leave your get pictures of your dinkies, or even any lampshades that you have. I'd love those still to be posted, because it's just lovely to see them in situ. And I'm going to leave it there.